For Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think. Recently in an interview, Bret Hart was mentioning what he thought about the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, aside from the fact that Bret is in the Hall of Fame twice himself, Bret Hart's thinking is that the WWE Hall of Fame is not legitimate primarily because of some of the people who have been inducted and some of the people who have not been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And when Bret was questioned about who he felt should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, one of the names that came up was Barry Horowitz. Now keep in mind, the people who follow me and who know me well know that Barry Horowitz is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. And people who follow wrestling and have followed wrestling for a while also know that Barry Horowitz, except for a few instances during his career, was nothing more than a glorified jobber in WWF and WCW. But Bret Hart, who is one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of the business, according to many, feels that Barry Horowitz should be in the Hall of Fame based primarily on who is in and who is not in. So he's looking at it from the fact that if you've got people like Vince McMahon's driver in the Hall of Fame, if you've got people like a Koko Beware who never really accomplished much, not only in WWF, but in many other areas where he wrestled, he did win a lot of titles, he didn't draw a lot of money, he was a good hand to have on a card to do things with. But he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. So Bret's thinking that if Coco's in, if Vince's driver is in, if Drew Carey is in, who's only made one appearance in WWE, Snoop Dogg, who's only made 2 appearances in WWE, Mr. T, people like that are all in the WWE Hall of Fame, then Barry Horowitz deserves a legitimate shot. Now let me address Bret Hart's thinking on this. Barry Horowitz, in my opinion, was one of the best technical wrestlers in the business. Barry Horowitz could get in the ring and go with anybody. If he was wrestling someone his size, he was going to give them a good technical match. Obviously, he was probably going to lose, but he was going to give them a really good technical match, and it was going to be something worth watching if you're a wrestling fan. If you prefer wrestling to sports entertainment, or if you prefer a wrestling match to 2 guys kicking and punching and scratching and bleeding and the whole thing, then Barry Horowitz was going to give you what you asked for. Barry Horowitz was also a good worker. He knew how to sell for the big guys. He knew how to sell for the little guys. He knew how to make stars look like stars. That was his job. That was what he did. He was one of the best at it. He knew how to create just enough snark so that it looked like the good guy would have to beat the snot out of Barry Horowitz. It was necessary and it was required because Barry could make you hate him. And when the WWF turned Barry into a good guy and pushed him a little bit, he could make the comebacks and use wrestling to make it look like that's all he has to offer. He doesn't have size, he doesn't have power, but he can use wrestling to outsmart his opponents. So when I think of what Bret Hart was saying about Barry Horowitz, I think of it in terms of entertainment. Now, if wrestling, sports entertainment, was like theater or like real acting, then guys like The Rock and Stone Cold and Bret and Sting and Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, those guys would all be lead actors. They would all be the Denzel Washingtons. They would all be John Travolta's or Bruce Willis's or whoever you can think of, George Clooney, Brad Pitt. They would all be the lead actors. They would be the guys out front whose names would be above the title on a movie, in a marquee, in a theater. Brad Pitt and George Clooney in Wolves, Apple TV. They would be that guy. They would be the guy who you paid to see whether you wanted to actually see the movie or not. Then you have the rest of the cast. Then you have the co-stars. Then you have the character actors, and then you have the extras. And in this example, a lot of people think that Barry Horowitz would just be the unnamed extra, that he would be the guy in line at the coffee shop, or he'd be the taxi driver who never got to say a word, or he'd be the guy walking down the street carrying an umbrella as the police are chasing a suspect in the other direction, and he's the guy that has to move out of the way, or he's the guy that gets bumped into and knocked over. He was not that guy. He was the character actor. He was the guy who had some lines. He was the guy who had a role. He was the guy who, in one film, he's a waiter, and in one film, he's a doctor, and in one film, he's a fireman, and in one film, he's a stuntman. He's the guy who was in the movie to make the movie better, but he wasn't the star. He's the guy who his roles may have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, but in the movie, he wasn't the guy whose name was going to be above the mark. He wasn't going to be also starring. He was going to be in the credits at the end, but you would know he was there because he would be memorable just because of his performance and because of his appearance. He was a character actor. And there are a lot of really good character actors who've won Oscars, and there are a lot of really good character actors who've had stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and there's a lot of really good character actors who have wax statues in the Hollywood Wax Museum. There are a lot of really good character actors whose careers are memorable. And Barry Horowitz's career is going to be memorable. It is memorable. And having said that, is it Hall of Fame worthy though? I think, just like Brett, if you look at who's in the Hall of Fame, he deserves to be in because he was a large part of what WWF and then WWE came to be during his era with the company. His feud with Chris Candido actually was a featured part of Monday Night Raw in its infancy. He helped make a lot of the stars who carried the WWF during his time there. And in the Global Wrestling Federation, which WWF owns their library, he was a big part of what Eddie Gilbert was trying to create there. So, does he belong in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. Again, as I say, if Coco Beware is in the Hall of Fame, if Pez Whatley is in the Hall of Fame, if Vince McMahon's driver is in the Hall of Fame, if Drew Carey is in the Hall of Fame, Mr. T is in the Hall of Fame, then absolutely Barry Horowitz deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Is he a Hall of Fame wrestler? Probably not if you're looking at it just from his record and just from his wins and losses. Probably not. But if you're looking at it from the standpoint of, did he do the job? Did he do the job well? Did he do the job he was paid to do? Professional wrestling is not legitimate sport anyway. Was he quality? Did he help make the product better? Yes, he did. And this is not just me, the fanboy, talking. This is me, the commentator, talking. Barry Horowitz rightfully deserves to be in the Hall of Fame simply because he was one who helped make the product better. Steve Lombardi helped make the product better. Dwayne Gill helped make the product better. A lot of these guys, these under-the-radar guys, helped make the product better. So yes, he deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. So Bret Hart, I agree with you on this one, and anyone who doesn't agree, that's fine. I welcome your disagreement, and I welcome your comments, and I welcome your dissenting opinions, because I like to hear from you, and I like to know what other people think. Remember to like and share this video and subscribe to this channel, and visit the Eric J on Sports website, and follow me on Facebook at Eric J on Sports 1, and on Instagram and Twitter at Eric J on Sports. And for Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think.